And welcome back to the program. So, for our final segment, we're going to bring it back to Pensacola and we're going to talk about a great event that happens every Christmas season. A local nonprofit here in town gets together and raises sponsors and awareness to do a very touching and meaningful thing out at Barrancas National Cemetery. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But joining me from the Kiwanis Club of Big Lagoon is Dare Elias. Dare, thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity, and thank Cox Communication for once again being a gold star sponsor for our Wreaths Across America this year.
Absolutely. Like I said, it is definitely a just a great thing that you do. And of course, you can see with your background there, kind of what we're going to be talking about here in a minute. So, definitely happy to support you guys with everything that you do with this program. But first, let's start off just with the Kiwanis Club of Big Lagoon. Tell us a little bit about the organization. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Kiwanis clubs, but maybe they're not familiar with what you guys do in the community.
Right. First off, Kiwanis is not an airline. Kiwanis is a community service organization that was started over 100 years ago, and it's in countries throughout the world. Our vision is to improve the world and our community one child at a time. We do that through a variety of programs. We focus on schools here in the Escambia County area. We have a program called Reading Builds Leaders, where each year we give out nearly 10,000 books to children through grade school, middle school, high school. We also provide, last year we provided 3 Take Stock in Children's scholarships through the Escambia County Schools Foundation. Throughout the years, we have contributed nearly 30 4-year college scholarships from our little club out here on the west side of Pensacola. So as you can, we focus on children. We have service leadership programs in the schools, grade school, middle school, and high school, where we look at all the kids that are in school today, that they will someday replace us as leaders in the community, and we help to build that.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, great stuff that you guys do here in the community for the youth. And I didn't realize that, and I should have, because I think it's in your name, but I didn't realize Kiwanis was international. So that's something I just learned. But again, I think it is Kiwanis International, right? So I don't know why I didn't realize.
Kiwanis International in over 200 different countries, and in every state in the United States, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the Wreaths at Barrancas, Wreaths Across America. Tell us a little bit about that program and how people can get involved.
Well, we just honored our veterans with Veterans Day, and it's a good time to start thinking about and remembering the fallen. Remember the fallen, honor those who serve and their families, and teach future generations about the sacrifices made to preserve our freedom. We do that here at Barrancas National Cemetery during Wreaths Across America event at Barrancas National Cemetery. Wreaths Across America began way back in 1992 when a tree farmer in Maine named Morrill Worcester drove his extra wreaths down to Arlington and started putting them on grave sites. His goal was to recognize some of those fallen veterans that their families were no longer around, that go back decades. Mm-hmm. The Army came over and said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I've got these extra wreaths, I'm going to put them out." Well, this grew. It took traction, and then by 2007, a foundation, a nonprofit foundation, was established to start spreading this throughout the country. Eventually, every gravesite at Arlington ended up with a wreath. By 2021, it had expanded to over 2 million wreaths throughout the world, and not just here in the United States at all national cemeteries, but also overseas, Okinawa, Normandy, Luxembourg. So that brings us to Barrancas Barrancas National Cemetery sits aboard NAS Pensacola, right here in Pensacola, and a lot of Pensacolians don't realize the historic significance of Barrancas. Barrancas actually dates back to the early 1800s when there was a merchant marine hospital located there, and they had several yellow fever patients die. So a cemetery was first founded there in 1838. During the Civil War, at the end of the Civil War, in 1868, Barrancas National Cemetery was established as a national cemetery. And one reason for that was the fact that there was a lot of animosity at the end of the Civil War, as we all know. And here in the Deep South, some of those soldiers that were from the North, and especially some of the soldiers that belonged to the USCT, which were the U.S. colored troops, weren't treated reverently as they should be. So Congress established the National Cemetery. That National Cemetery has grown now to where we have nearly 50,000 veterans, dating back to before the Civil War, on through the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, all the way up and including today's global war on terror. We were first asked at Kiwanis Club to get involved in this a few years back, actually in 2013, a small nonprofit that was helping Mr. Buster Hartford, who is actually the nephew of Mr. Worcester, and he's a retired Navy chief, lives here in town. They helped us, they asked us to bring our kids out from our service leadership programs and help put out wreaths. Well, we did it. While we were out there, it was beautiful. The ceremony was beautiful. The cemetery was beautiful. But when it was all over, I turned around and there were all these acres of white, unadorned headstones. That year, we put out 3,000 wreaths. Many of us in Kiwanis are veterans, retired military, veterans of foreign wars. And we said to each other, you know, we can help with this program. We can help remember and honor these folks while we teach the kids about the significance of the sacrifices the veterans and their families have made to keep our freedom. So we got started. Every year since then, we've increased the numbers of wreaths we've been able to put on the grave. We work in partnership with 40 other nonprofits in the area to go out and solicit as many wreaths as we can and solicit volunteers. Last year, we were able to put out over 23,000 wreaths. This started with 3,000 wreaths, and each year we'd build it up. Unfortunately, that still leaves several grave sites unadorned. We need, our goal is 38,500 wreaths, because we can't put a separate wreath where in the columbariums where the remains are. We can only put one in a column. But if we get 38,500, we can recognize them all. Anybody familiar?
There, thank you. So we are out of time, but I definitely, how can people sponsor? How can people?
That's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah. How can people?
Sorry about the time. To sponsor a wreath or to volunteer on December 17th, go to barrancaswreaths.com. That's all one word, BARRANCAS, wreaths, WREATHS.com. And on that page, you can select either to sponsor a wreath, get volunteer information, or sign up as a volunteer. Importantly, the last day to order wreaths is November 28th. That gives us time to have the wreaths made and be trucked down fresh from Maine.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And thank you again for everything you do in the community. And of course, this great program. I really appreciate you sharing it with us today.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I ran over, but as you can probably tell, I'm a little enthusiastic about the program, and so are we, and all of our volunteers are.
Absolutely. And I love that, because you have to be to make it effective, right? So thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in this month. Join us next time on Across the Gulf Coast.